build socially intelligent artificial intelligence. Social intelligence is made up of several factors. One is context awareness, one is presence, and the one I'm right now looking on is authenticity. I think we just jumpstart, and I would like you to give a short introduction, what you do and how you see yourself relating to this topic.
Okay, I think the area of artificial intelligence is very, very important, especially when we look at potentially how different types of robotic software might be used in decision-making processes. And I'll give you an example. For instance, we are in a flood situation and data feeds are coming through via consumers and citizens who are saying, I'm stuck in a flood or I'm stuck in a fire. And instead of trying to ensure that the information is accurate, we might be seeking some level of authenticity from a conversation with the end user, with the citizen. So I think in this instance, I relate very much to the area broadly. However, my specific niche is looking at social implications of software robots and even embodied intelligence in various devices, whether they are looking like humans or they are embodied in inanimate objects.
Okay. So how would you then define some kind of a perfect conversation between a human and a machine? What would it, I mean, I phrased it some kind of like a Turing-proof conversation, but yes. I think perfect conversation also hits the nail.
So firstly, I think we could never have a perfect conversation with something other than a human being. And many people have studied what is it that makes two people come together to have an intimate conversation, or what is it that brings a crowd together to listen to someone or to synchronously and asynchronously discuss subjects. And of course, it's not just the fact that they are looking into the eyes of another human being, but it is the body language, it is listening intently and turning our heads. You know, there is a lot of functional movement that two people display. It is saying things like so, you know, connect the sentences and words where someone shows their enthusiasm for a conversation, but it's also questioning, the ability to question whether someone is speaking truth or nonsense, I think. So do I think we can ever have a perfect conversation with something other than a human? No, I don't. But I think we can still use the conversation with inanimate objects to provide some kind of view of a decision if we need to.
So is there some kind of a process that would, I mean, that would build some kind of this trust in the other person?
Yes. So how do we trust others, for instance? And of course, believability is a big thing. So we can try to mimic a system and say, we believe it, we perceive that it's a real conversation. In fact, we can't tell the difference between the conversation with a Barbie doll, like Hello Barbie, and a human being. But I think no matter how much we study what it means to be human, the artificial will still always be artificial. So is there a process? Of course, we can observe. We can look at outward appearance. We could create agents that were embodied, for example, in interfaces that looked like my face, with movement, with eye contact, with tilting of the head, with hand gestures, with anything that is what we call natural. And we can try to mimic this. But I think there will always be a difference between that which I call spirit in the human being and that which is dead in an object, even if it is 100% mimicking me as I am at the moment. It's all biometrics, it's all very much replicatable. But in actual fact, that system is not Katina Michael. No matter how much you try, no matter how much it looks like me and it turns like me and it gestures like me and it writes like me and it pauses like me and it talks like me, it is not imbued with the spirit of Katina Michael, whether you call it a soul, a heart, a connection between the mind and body, whatever that is. I think we cannot replicate that which is spiritual.
Okay. So that some kind of, I talked to a researcher, his name is Gabriel Scanse. He built a system that tries to mimic these metaverbal cues. However, do you think that knowing that the machine is a machine, not faking the human, is important as well for conveying some kind of authenticity or showing inner truth, if we phrase it like that?
Yes. So are you saying that the conversation is not covert, that if it is between a machine and a human, the human knows it is a machine before it begins the conversation?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to give you an example. Imagine that I was a privacy advocate and I wanted to warn people who use Facebook that potentially the data that they provide to Facebook might be mined for big data purposes and used to exploit the consumer. And in order for me to say, I would like to create an interface where I can warn people, and there is a researcher in Hong Kong by the surname of Klein who is doing this kind of research. I would like to build an interface where before I subscribe, I can intervene with the consumer and I can tell the consumer, by the way, you are about to sign over to a privacy policy that means this data, and this data will be given to a third party. Okay? So I can create that interface and it is real and it is authentic. And in fact, it is for the good of the consumer that they are aware of the privacy implications. So they don't read the policy in 10 pages, but they will listen to me as an interface, as embodied intelligence on the bottom right. And I look real, I look authentic, I look believable. I perceive this to be not harming me and it is actually helping me. Now, what if I was to say to you, Facebook can build the same kind of interface and it is authentic, it is believable, it looks and smells natural, and instead, even though that little embodied intelligence interface has got a face, it looks like you can trust it and you can put your life in it, and as it's going through the privacy policy, it tells you Facebook is wonderful. Yes, we share your data, but we do it in the most ethical way. And we use your data for the best ways possible. Please contribute your data, enter more details, and save the world. Okay? So the intent is very important. And while the interface is authentic in both these examples, the manipulation by the subjective responses from the, let's just call it the industry client interface, is very different in both of these scenarios. And so it looks authentic, it smells authentic, but it's really lying to me. This is my problem with these kinds of conversational embodied intelligence pieces.
Okay. Do you think there's something that would really make them unauthentic or something not trustworthy? Is there that something that comes to your mind?
Well, of course, we can build in looks in the face, which deceive. So, you know, you can know when someone or something, I should say, is lying to you. Just like when humans lie in real life, they look this way, they can't make eye contact, and something happens to their facial expressions, as has been proven in some instances with studies. But My problem is that no matter what we do, these intelligent devices have been built with humans that have inbuilt subjectivity and prejudice. And so maybe if a bot made another bot, we could remove that subjectivity, but then I also worry that, you know, they will create their own species of subjectivity in some
Right.
manner. So I don't think we can ever overcome that problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you ever encounter some kind of authentic agent? I mean, if Facebook would have one, yes, that would be some kind of authentic agent. But did you ever encounter one? For example, do you know the Microsoft bot Tai, which was on Twitter?
I heard something about this, but tell me the story.
It's a bot that Microsoft put on Twitter, and they let this bot learn by itself. So it should become a 19-year-old girl. In the end, it turned out by learning stuff that a 19-year-old girl learns, it became Nazi and anti-feminist.
Yes.
So is that bot still authentic?
It's a very interesting question. I think unleash any bot onto the internet, and most likely it will have something to do with pornography, illicit trade, human trafficking, perhaps racism, hate speech, and a whole lot more, which the internet is unfortunately crowded with. So my first problem when I hear of bots and AI systems like conversational pieces in Hello Barbie and the Amazon Echo device is that many of these rely on the cloud. And of course, it could be an intranet style cloud, but increasingly the bot is left free to run its course over the internet. And so the chances of it finding material which is inappropriate is huge. And my concern is that when these bots are let free, as in the case of the excellent example you retold of the Microsoft bot, that it doesn't end up in the good of humanity, but will always choose the worst kind of existence and coarse elements that this world should not be looking at as examples. So imagine my child has a Hello Barbie, and I'm trying to build into my children and encourage positive values of sharing. And yet, for some reason, Hello Barbie has looked at the internet, and while it has found some very good examples of sharing, it perhaps starts to deviate and go off on an autonomous trajectory towards not sharing, of exposing the principle of mine. I own it and you can't have it, and I'm better than you because you don't have it and I do. Then as a mother, I would be extremely angry, to be honest, that the values I was trying to imbue in my household were being downtrodden by those of the internet. So when my child surfs the net, of course they have a choice whether they accept or reject what comes back, especially if I'm there with supervision and they are very little. But when there is another object of which the software is embodied within, in this case, a small device this side which mimics a doll, and starts to begin to have a conversation with my child, then it is almost the genie's let out of the bottle. It really is a difficult way to prove to the child that this thing is teaching you the wrong principles when it is so subjective and manipulative and almost unnoticeable.
No. So is it also the duty of a developer or the duty of mankind some kind of to incorporate certain values or value systems into bots?
Of course. I have two very good friends, Thomas Holderness and Etienne Turpin, who are working on a project at the moment, petajakarta.org, which is about citizens of Indonesia in Jakarta being able to interact using Twitter to identify where floods are and perhaps how waters are rising and how fast they are rising. And their whole idea is about how they can have a conversation with each individual Twitter subscriber that has a hashtag of flood in Indonesia, banjir, and being able to confirm a report is real and not just being sent by another bot, by having a conversation on social media between almost two inanimate objects, but really the bot on one side in the operations center, and on the other, the human who has introduced that report of a flood zone. So in this instance, it's beautiful. In this instance, it can't be seen to be harming. It is just confirming. And I think that is when we will make top use of these kinds of bots. It's not to manipulate, it's not to brainwash, it's not to put forward propaganda or disinformation, which, by the way, is how most likely some industries will use this technology.
Right. Yeah. So that's what my goal of research is as well, to prevent something like this to happen. I also have a very nice example, because we are talking about values and you talked about your kids. I read a story about Amazon Echo, and that kids lose telling people thank you or asking for a favor, because Echo doesn't need a thank you in order to do something. It's just order it and then Echo will do it. And I think that also plays some kind of in this area where you have certain value systems that need to be implemented.
And conversations. That's a top point, Mario. Conversation. You know, we don't talk like robots, but I'm going to tell you something. The way we SMS using these devices is robotic, lacks empathy, does not have thank you, does not even have complete words, does not have capitalization. And so what we are seeing is we are mimicking the robots. And in one side, here we are trying to analyze the human to say, this is how the human interacts. So this is how we should build the bots. But Mario, we are being trained by the systems we are building on how to act. So I'm not even talking about animation, you know, on television or in the theater. I'm talking about how the devices and the apps are being built. We're getting shorter and shorter in conversation. We are almost becoming digital ourselves and not analog. Yes, no, Y, N, or I'm at the station. You know, instead of saying, Mum, Dad, I'm at the station, pick me up, it's just I'm at the station. Be a mind reader and figure it out for yourself, because yesterday at 5 o'clock, you picked me up at this time, so I'm at the station. And it's not even calling to talk. It's just texting. And what next? What next, Mario? So we are mimicking short messages, Twitter messages, and rather, perhaps we should be studying what these things are doing to us and saying, this is not so good that we are going down this path. What can we do to come back to course? But it is a very interesting scenario.
Yeah, it's the reverse Turing test, actually, out of Ex Machina.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we had a great talk. Is there anything that comes to your mind that we didn't talk about when discussing about authentic conversational agents?
I wanted to ask you what inspired you to start this research.
That's a good question. We had to find our own topics when we started with all these master theses, writing the expose in December last year. And I was looking on messaging and the rise of all these messaging agents, like Go Butler, like Magic, all these kinds of artificial intelligence in messaging. So I'm not really a technical guy, so that didn't work out. However, I also planned to do something related to ethics. And then I followed these two paths and came to the common ground where we were talking about intelligence and how you can divide intelligence into several steps. So kinesthetic intelligence, social intelligence, just intelligence by being intelligent, and that fascinated me. And then I came down to how the brain works, and then that fascinated me. And then I read about bots and artificial intelligence, and I saw the connections. Somehow everything fell into place. Like I was seeing that there was a small gap in the research to look on authentic bots. I mean, people talk about context-aware bots. They talk about building consciousness into bots with internal states and all that stuff. But I haven't seen authenticity related to IT in general, as well as messaging agents. So that made me think, why not do that? And that inspired me finally to go in this direction.
Good on you. Please write for our magazine, IEEE Technology and Society magazine. We explore those areas, and next year we are going to have a call for papers for a special issue of Robotics and Automation magazine for 2018. So we will call for papers very soon, and that publication will come out in 2018 in March.
Okay.
And we are also hopefully going to have a proceedings of the IEEE special issue on robot ethics in a couple of years.
Wow.
That's still at the proposal stage, but please keep in touch. I am finding your line of questioning very important, especially to do with authenticity, which is, you know, and I'm often thinking about perceived authenticity. And I think we get fooled sometimes by what is authentic and what is looks like it's authentic, but it's just perceived authenticity. It's not really authentic. But good luck, and thank you so much for getting in touch.
Yeah, sure. If you want the results, I try to forward them to you. I saw your IE co-editor, so I appreciate that you invited me to submit something submit it for this call for papers. And well, I will keep in touch. Thank you very much for your time.
Good luck.
And,
thank you so much.
Have a nice evening with your kids.
Thank you. Bye now, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye.